with us again. Hi, Maria. How are you?
Hi, Melissa. Thank you for inviting me back.
Well, you are such a pleasure to have. So, this is our third program in the series of financial literacy. And for those of you that didn't tune in the first or the second time, this is Miss Maria Sanchez. And Maria, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Melissa. My name is Maria Sanchez, and I am the Executive Director for Project Soy. We are located in Inglewood, California, where we serve job seekers with employment services. I'm so proud to be part of this series of workshops, and I know we've had two others, one on financial planning, what are the steps, and then the previous one is on credit worthiness. Today will be a culmination of all those topics and how important it is to know where our money is going, Melissa.
And that's always a question that we ask ourselves at the end of the month. Where did the money go? So this is going to be a great presentation that Maria will have with all of us. And like Raul said, when you are ready, send your questions and comments through the chat. I will be keeping track of them and I will try to get through all of them at the end of the presentation. So Raul, would you like to cue up the presentation?
Hey, good. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today's topic is where is our money going? We will focus on budgeting and what are the steps to develop a written plan to help us. This is courtesy of Sarah Jobs for Progress National and Wells Fargo. Again, good morning. Where's my money going? Every month, Melissa, I know I have to pay my mortgage, my utilities, my credit cards, and of course, there's no entertainment today. I mean, now because of COVID-19, but our money's still going out in other forms of online services. So we're going to talk about that. Next screen, please. So where's our money going? The best way to know where your money is going is through budgeting. A budget is the process of creating a written plan on how you want to spend your money. You know, most motivational speakers say you don't know how to control change. Change is inevitable. The only thing we can do is control how we position ourselves in anticipation of that change. So this tip on or this topic on budgeting is a tool to help us have more financial independence and control. So some of the where's our money going? Budgeting is dreaded by most people, Melissa. People have a lot of myths and misconceptions regarding writing a plan, the time and the steps to do it. So most people associate word the word budgeting with restrictions. They feel that it does not lead to financial independence. But on the contrary, we're going to show them that it's actually going to give them more control. So why don't I need to budget? Again, we're still talking about mindsets, beliefs, and myths. This could be a possible myth. I am rich, therefore I don't have to budget. I have enough money to pay whatever I want. Well, in actuality, even the rich budget. Because if they don't, Melissa, they're going to run out of money. Eventually, they need to be able to work their money to sustain their lifestyle. The other myth is I am poor. I have no money. And as a result, I don't need to budget. Well, even the more the more poor individual, the working class, the person on a fixed income, still has expenses and they have a flow of income. And by budgeting, we will show them they will have a lot more um, spare money or money that they didn't realize they had, but they weren't tracking. And then the other is I am neither rich nor poor, therefore I don't have to budget because I have no debt and I get by. Well, unless we're living in a tent by the freeway, I've yet to know any American who doesn't have any debt. So the one who gets just by is will not be able to increase their financial freedom. And that's the main goal of today's presentation. We want to talk about how can we keep more money and have and experience financial freedom. So these other myths about budgeting. Making a budget is time consuming. Budgeting is difficult and it requires too many details. I am not good at math. Budgeting is tedious. I must do it every month. Budgeting is too restrictive. I won't be able to have fun, buy what I want, and enjoy life. I can keep track of how much I spend in my head. Well, again, when we put all these items together on a spreadsheet or pen and pencil or on an app, we will enjoy much more financial freedom and be able to enjoy life better because we'll be able to plan for those things that normally we can't afford, like vacations, a new purse. Think about it. Your money is already going somewhere, right? We get our paycheck and we have to pay bills. So why wouldn't you want to know where it is going? Then if you don't like it, then make changes. And that's the beauty of putting a plan together. Wouldn't you like to have the flexibility to shift your money around as you meet a goal, develop a plan, 6 months, a year, 3 years, to buy a new TV, to buy a car, to go on vacation. Also, being able to put a plan together is rewarding. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of budgeting. So keeping it in mind, if we write down our expenses against our income, we then can identify monies that are available for leisure and other fun stuff that maybe are going unnoticed. What are the benefits of budgeting? Hey, you can see and monitor where your money is going. Know what you can afford. Devise how to lower your debt. Plan for retirement. Plan for investing. See what's important to you based on how you allocate your funds. And know how your money is working for you or not working. How far close you are towards reaching your financial goal. Most recently, Melissa, we had refinanced last year. And we noticed that because we developed a budget, we were able to qualify for a streamlined refi where automatically there's no credit check, there's no financial, employment verification to benefit from today's lower interest rate. And I thought that was really good. And that was as a result of sitting down with my husband and doing some budgeting. So yeah, we got benefit of lower interest rate. Okay, when making a budget, you have to consider our needs versus our wants. I need food to live, right? I need water, shelter. So keeping a budget, you can find less expensive ways to meet your needs. In California, they have a Ralph's and then they have a Food for Less. It's under the same parent organization, but what I have found personally that when I shop at Food for Less, the same product is cheaper. So I am learning to be a smart shopper. I go to Food for Less, right? Wants are things that you desire but can live without. Example is going to the movies, having a manicure, design clothes. Can you use less money for your wants? Absolutely. Before COVID-19, I'd go to Nordstrom, Macy's to get me Michael Kors purse. Now I can go to Ross or Marshall, get the same product, right? At great discount. So I'm still getting what I want, but I'm being a smart shopper. Obligations are debts you owe. Example, car payments, credit cards, home loans. Can you negotiate lower interest payments for your obligations? And as I mentioned to you, I just did with my home refinance. And I'm glad because knowing that this is not just for the rich, budgeting is something that is a tool that can help everybody towards financial freedom. I'm really benefiting from it. Ever since Raul brought up this topic, I've been applying it even more so now. So Kudos to Raul. Next screen, please. Key most important elements of a budget, recognizing there's income, money that's coming in, and expenses, money that is going out. So, special considerations when budgeting. Income and expenses can fluctuate from month to month, so we need to allocate correctly. How often you get paid also affects your budget. Creating a budget when your income fluctuates is challenging, but it can be done. Your budget doesn't have to be perfect, but it must be realistic in order to work, which means it has to be realistic, customized to your personal needs. So the same template might not be applicable if it's used universal. It's just the actual steps that would be more universally applicable. So include your family. This is the fun part. Include your family, spouse, partners, kids when you're creating a budget. I personally include my two daughters. We put the grandbaby there, but all he knows is, can I have money in our budgets? Because we like to take a family vacation every year. And when we all chip in, we really enjoy the best time together. And we know how much money we can spend. So we definitely include my daughters in the planning. Next slide, please. So what is income? Income varies based on family. So for us, income can be paycheck, or it could be alimony. Someone going through a divorce, so they would get alimony. Social Security, someone who has retired or is on disability. Child support, public assistance, gifts, bonuses, rental income. You have your home who someone is renting and that's providing additional income. Other sources. So what are expenses? Definitely, each month we get gas, electricity, water, phone, cable, internet. Housing is another expense. We have to pay for the dwelling we live in. So some rent, some pay mortgage, and others even pay housing HOA fees or maintenance. We pay for the property. Transportation, getting to work, getting the bus, Uber, parking costs are all expenses. Insurance. This is a very important expense that I see many Americans kind of not giving its importance. Once we start having a financial crisis, we stop paying on our home insurance or car insurance. And I wanted to point out that just in California alone in 2017, there was 485,866 car accidents. So if we're driving to work, definitely that's not an area we want to cut out from our budget. Healthcare, prescriptions, definitely we need to revisit if how much our medicine costs, and if we can get reduced, packages. Now more and more we're seeing Sam's Club, Walmart, Costco involved in the prescription industry, and I really appreciate that because they're giving cheaper or discounts. Food. Instead of eating out, take your lunch to work. That could help us reduce the food costs. Entertainment, well, with COVID-19, more and more people are staying at home. So this is an area maybe that we have previously budgeted for that we can put it in a savings. So when we are able to go out and enjoy life again. Clothing, washing your clothes versus the cleaners. Education, books. Some of the kids, my daughter Crystal, she goes to college and she recycles her books. She buys them and then she sells them back, and then there's some other online features, and she's just really ahead of the game, and I really appreciate that. Personal care, haircuts, grooming, toiletries. You know, nowadays with COVID-19, we're learning to cut our own hair. So that can definitely eat our, you know, our budget. So next screen. Okay, so yeah. So what are some additional expenses is how many of us join the gym and never go to the gym? Been there, done that, right? So I know that a lot of people want to go to the gym right now, but they can't. So maybe we need to be creative, you know, walk on the park would save, I don't know, membership fees have we have gone down, but still that's an expense that we can start saving. Unplanned car and house repairs, emergency can definitely be expenses that are unplanned and can create some havoc in our budgeting. So I want to point this out. According to the Pew Research Center, 12 million Americans spend more than 7 billion, Melissa, it's $7 billion on payday loans. So what that means is on an average, a person can take up to 8 payday loans of 375 amount each year, and they will spend out of pocket $520 just on interest to pay it back. So if we don't plan our expenses and an emergency happens, we're going to be one of the statistics. And on an average, it takes 3 to 5 months to get out of that payday loan because it becomes a cycle. Taxes, if self-employed, make sure you look at your, you know, meet with your tax preparer, read the current tax laws. I know that individuals who are collecting unemployment and were receiving the additional federal stimulus funding, they will be taxed on that money. So that's only for people receiving unemployment and we're receiving the additional stimulus federal funding. We have pets that we love. So giving to charity, vacations that we plan, and having a savings fund. So these are all examples of different expenses that we really do not give a lot of thought to that are eating at our income. So what do we do with that? Going on to the next screen, we need to look at what are fixed expenses, your rent, your cable, your car payment. They seem to be the same every month versus your variable expenses. And these are your electricity, your water. I mentioned to you my electricity is off the chart because we have our AC going on. So I'm glad summer is only a few months long, but then here comes winter and there goes my gas bill. And so, like, you know, they're variable expenses, flexible. Flexible are going out to eat, buying clothes, occur by choice. So this is the category of wants. We might not need it, but we might want it. And then unexpected cannot be predicted, such as car repairs, home repairs, and medical bills. So we're going to take these variables and we're going to look at breaking down the process for our participants in developing a budget. So what is a budget? A budget is a plan with timelines, with terms regarding budget, with income and expenses that can lead you to financial independence. A budget only works if you're honest about your income and your expenses. So how do you create a budget? Some people are really good with pen and pencil, pen and paper. Some develop, I know my husband, he's an Excel spreadsheet guru. You know, he loves the spreadsheets and it's a little bit over my head, but he does a great job. Some people are even very savvy with apps and with templates, whichever their choice, it's a means to an end using any one of these formats. So whatever anyone feels comfortable, it will do the job. So we need to identify what is our income, paycheck, alimony, Social Security, disability, public assistance, gifts, bonuses, rental properties, and side jobs. So for me personally, the two that come to mind would be paycheck and rental properties. I have an investment property and I have a paycheck. So those are two areas that would go into my budget, and my husband's paycheck, of course. Um, Expenses, utilities, housing, transportation, healthcare, insurance, food, education, entertainment, credit cards, and other expenses like that we want, we like, might not need, like going out to eat. Totals. So your income minus your expenses equals, hopefully, it zeroes out. But if it doesn't zero out, hopefully there's more income, and then you can use that to create a savings account. So we need to analyze your budget. If your income is higher than your expenses, you are in luck, right? Because now you have extra money to create an emergency fund. So now when you do have those unexpected expenses, you don't have to go to a payday loan, right? We already said no in the last workshop. Predatory lending costs a lot more money at the end. So start a savings fund. You can always use it to go on vacation, right? Eliminate debt faster by spending more money than the minimum. As when we in our last workshop, we said try not to give the minimum. Try to give a little bit more. Just be consistent, because 35% of your credit score is on the behavior of how we pay our bills on time. If you are debt free, consider investing. This is a great time to open an annuity. Of course, annuities with COVID-19 are not giving a lot of money, but at least you know that if you remove your money from a savings account and put it in an annuity for 2-3 years, you're not going to lose any money. It's going to stay the same. If anything, you might gain some interest, but again, you're not going to lose any of those additional bank charges that you get from a financial institution. If your expenses are more than your income, you are overspending and must adjust. Could be, or the other thing could be that you've lost your job, and now two income household becomes a one income household, and you might have to revisit how much money is going out compared to how much money is coming in. And this is where we actually get to be very frugal about our wants. Do I really want that first? Look at the variable expenses and see where you can reduce. This is the time you start calling your credit cards, and you ask to see if you can reduce the interest rate. Look at your cable, your internet provider. A lot of times, the cable company is able to compare. More companies are going away from contracts with the cell phone industry, So be a smart consumer, compare them and call them and say, what can you do for me? I've been with your company for 10 years. What can you do to reduce some of these costs? And they, believe me, especially right now in COVID-19, they are interested in working with you, the consumer. Identify unnecessary expenses, like going out to eat. Instead of going out to get a hamburger, grill your own hamburger. We did that yesterday, and that was fun. Limit your wants. Again, do you really need this purse today, being that we're not going out anywhere to show it off? Maybe you might want to wait till after Christmas or, next year. Track your cash purchases. This is a real area that affects a lot of us, even myself. You carry cash and you start, buying lunch for people. You start buying Starbucks. You start, you go to Starbucks, your coffee's going to be at least $5, right? You go to McDonald's for the same cup of coffee, it might be $1 or $2. So maybe we still get our needs met, but it's through a different method. Or I like what Melissa, you suggested, buy a coffee pot, carry your coffee, right? That's another option. So track your cash purchases, because they do add up. So these are items that can create holes in your budget. So be aware. My husband had a heart attack in March, and all of a sudden we end up with a $10,000 bill because our coverage didn't cover it. So definitely, I'm doing a lot of budgeting. I'm talking to the different financial institutions and healthcare, trying to reduce that and see where I can get back on track. But unplanned expenses are the biggest problems for us when we're developing a budget. Just be aware of that. Okay, so this is where I was sharing with you earlier. How can you cut some of those expenses down? Cut back on your cell phone. If you really don't use your cell phone for business, internet use, emails, and you just use it to call your family, you might go with just a lower budget phone. You don't need all the features, and you might be able to save money by looking at all your options. What are your needs? You first need to analyze, what are you using this device for, right? Once you identify that, then you can match the product to that need. Bundle your phone and internet services. For example, I need internet at home because I'm writing grants. I'm just on my internet all the time. So I need a good package for me. And I see in our area, Spectrum is providing those services. So I look for discounts with them, and I ended up getting a great discount. So because of my experience working with the federal government. So, look for ways to get discount from your carriers. Cut your cable bill. What I'm noticing now more and more, and I think in our prior conversations, Melissa, you mentioned, you stream movies. So do you really need cable? Right? Using the internet, you can stream movies, and they're the latest movies. So you're really getting more for less. So maybe cutting the cable bill, looking at just keeping the internet since you need it because you're communicating with other people, your family members, and so saving money in that area. Consolidate your debt. If you have too many open accounts, look at one loan and consolidate it. And look at a loan that gives you the best rate, so that you at the end are not paying interest on 5 credit cards, but just on one personal loan instead. Negotiate lower interest rates. Today, say 3 years ago, I applied for a loan and with this company, and I'm not going to name the company, but it's interesting that they're sending me reminders now how great of a member I was, and would I like another loan. So it's good to know that when you get these messages and you are in need to consolidate your debt, then use it as to your advantage and negotiate the lowest interest rate, right? Because they want your business. Reduce your insurance premiums by shopping around. That's always the best thing. Insurance companies, you can't live without insurance. As a matter of fact, I'm so pleased that I have Aflac because that did help me when my husband had his heart attack. But a lot of us don't see ourselves as a commodity. We just get up and go to work, and we're the breadwinners in our family. But we don't see that if we were a wrestler or we were a model, we would have to pay insurance on our body, on our legs, our hands, or whatever we are using as a commodity. So where I'm going with this story is this: we're a commodity. We need to insure ourselves. And when I was preparing, I was doing a lot of research, and I was very disappointed. I was kind of saddened that not many Americans have life insurance. So, looking for insurance, looking at it, getting insurance for yourself, looking at Aflac, looking at shopping around, bundle your insurance, your house, your life insurance, your car insurance with the same company so you can benefit from a lower rate. So learn to cut down, eliminate, eating out, go to movies. There's no one going to movies nowadays, which is a perfect time to start, reducing some of that entertainment budget that you normally, no longer use at this time. When money is short, we need to prioritize. So here is where we are, again, we're confronted with our wants and our needs. So choose bills to pay in full. I mentioned in previous workshops that we need to be smart consumers, and if we can't make a payment during this COVID-19 era, credit cards are willing to work with you. We just need to be proactive and call them and talk with them. They're offering forbearance, which just means that they're skipping a payment. And if that helps you to get through the next month, call them again. But I know that they're willing to work with you. They prefer to know that you're making a commitment to pay versus reporting, a non-payment to the credit bureaus. Consider the consequences of your choices. If you make partial or late payments, as I mentioned, you definitely don't, want to make a payment. You definitely want to work with your creditors so that they can work with you on a payment plan. Today in COVID-19 era, there's many options, and there's really no need for us to actually skip a payment. Get reported to the credit bureau. So look at ways to prioritize your, especially your money, especially when money is tight. So if we make a living driving our cars to and from work, one of the things that we must have to do is keep our car in tip-top condition, right? Keep a full tank of gas and pay our car insurance and our car payment, because it's a means to an end. We need the car to get to work, and we need the work to pay our bills. Pay your insurance premiums as they provide protection. As I mentioned to you, how many accidents happen per year on the highways. So we want to, prevent having a lot of costs associated to being an uninsured motorist. So also, when you drive, try to plan your trip. You have to go to the store, to the cleaners, and to work. Try to map it out so you do it on one trip. You're going to work, and on the way back, you go to the store, and then you hit the cleaners, and then you go home. Try to also, that's another way of saving gas. And, just think about ways to plan your trip as you go out. Don't acquire new debt. This is so important. No additional credit cards, because as we mentioned to you during the credit worthiness workshop, you will be enticed. You will be receiving many, offers. So it's better to analyze your income with your expenses, and write a plan. Everyone must budget. Well, to review your budget regularly, because as you know, there's flexibility, things change. Maybe you end up getting a raise, and you have more income coming in. So maybe you might want to add some more wants to your expenses. Keep track of cash purchases. Compare your monthly spending with your budget. Set aside free spending money. One of the things I learned a long time ago is when I get paid, pull out X amount of dollars to have in my purse, so that I stop using my debit card. That's what I wanted to say. My husband says, you're always using your debit card, but you have money in your wallet. So why are you doing both? And I'm like, I don't know. But now I know. So because those debit cards have additional fees if you use them outside of your financial institution, and those fees add up, $2, $3. They've gone as much as $5, right? In some, at the airport. So I am a wise debit user now. How to learn. So be realistic when estimating your expenses, and keep track of recurring patterns in your spending. We're ready for questions, and I'm excited to hear them.
Thank you, Maria. I just want to remind everyone, in our first series, the first webinar tour series, we talked about fraud and scams. And I didn't share with you, Maria, but last week I shared with Raul that, sometimes you don't check your bank account all the time. And, I just so happened to have been checking mine, and I noticed that there was a, a debit that came out for a store that I knew I wasn't at, over the weekend. And come to find out, it was a fraudulent debit. And so I had to report it. I had to get my card, torn apart, and, they had to resend me one. So guys, please check your bank statements, even if you think, there's really not a lot in there, what are they going to do? But just go ahead and check it. Make sure that you're matching your expenses, on a weekly basis even. And that also helps you keep track of your budget. Maria, you hit a lot of great points, a lot of points that actually, after being in these series with you and Raul and our audience, I have put into practice too. Like last week, we were talking about comparing your electricity bill, your gas bill, your water bill, things that you can go back to these providers and say, hey, is there a different plan for me? Is there a way that I can save money? And I actually just switched cell phone providers because of this as well, because I thought I was spending too much money. And so I went back to my cell phone provider. They said they couldn't do anything. And so I went ahead and switched. And so you have the power to make those kinds of decisions and cut your bills. Even if you think that you can't, just asking. The worst thing they could say is no, and you can keep looking for options. There are a lot of options, and that's what a lot of you are saying here in the chat, Maria. A lot of them are sharing some of the things that they are doing out there. Somebody told us that is out in California that if you drive a vehicle and you're pulled over and you don't have insurance, they will tow your car. So like Maria said, car insurance is very important, not just in California, but in all states. So make that one of your priorities when you're budgeting, as Maria talked to us about. And also, let's see, we do have somebody that asked a question, Maria. For some that are on HUD, they're not allowed to have a savings account. So they want to know how else can they save money, or how can they save their money if they cannot have a savings account.
Interesting. I really have never been asked that question. I wonder if they're able to use prepaid cards where they can put their money on a prepaid card. We've seen a lot of the youth do that now, and I would like to see more of the, seniors being able to do that versus, keeping their money at home, or especially in this case. So maybe a prepaid card, loading up the card with the money, and then knowing that they have that card for anything that can come up in it. I don't think that constitutes having a savings account. But that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great tip, actually. I didn't think about that, but yes, you can do that. Also, we have here something else. Oh, and my son does this. Anytime we leave change lying around or in the car, he'll always ask if he can put it in his piggy bank. And at the end of the year, he'll take his piggy bank to the bank and puts it in his savings account. And sometimes, it's over $100, sometimes it's over $300 and just change. And so that's another way that you can save. Don't just throw away your change, or don't just leave it somewhere and don't keep track of it. It does add up. So that's another way of you guys that you can save. Also, somebody said something to us that I would like to share, because I think we forget about ourselves when we are writing out our budgets. And somebody said, think yourself as worth to pay yourself. Try to save 10% of your income each paycheck. Now, what do you think about that, Maria?
I think that most financial analysts say pay yourself first. Because if you pay yourself first, then it's almost you once you've met your need and you feel you're invested in yourself, then you can do the hard work or the work that you might seem to be restrictive, but you've already set money aside. And putting, yeah, definitely, I think that 10% is doable, and it takes away the stigma of having to to budget the remaining balance, the remaining money. That's a great.
That's great. Somebody also wanted to agree with you about the McDonald's versus Starbucks coffee. Uh, a lot of people that have made that switch can attest to the fact that they are saving $2 to $3 per cup, sometimes even more, depending on what size of Starbucks coffee that you get. And so keep that in mind. You know, I don't drink coffee myself. My husband does, and he used to love stopping by Starbucks. We bought a Keurig. We buy the little K-Pods, Starbucks kind, and we don't have that bill anymore. We don't have those debits anymore for coffee. And so now we can spend it on something else or save it. But it does make a big difference when you look at how much you're spending, and not just coffee. Sometimes it's your nails, your haircuts, things like that. So I think that's a great point about comparing how much you're paying for some of the services and some of those wants that you are keeping in mind. And somebody also sent in a comment about how they dropped their cable bill. And my nephew was actually telling me about this, and they bought a Roku instead. And like myself, I stream everything that we watch at home. We do not have cable anymore because you can stream the news, you can stream movies, like Maria said. If you get like the lower end of the Netflix, and at the end of the day, I really don't watch a lot of TV. And if you don't either, why have cable?
Right.
I know a lot of us sometimes or used to have it because our kids were younger, and that was sort of something to keep them busy. But if they're older, they're out of the house, you really don't need it anymore. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, so one thing that I wanted to mention that you brought up was how to prioritize some of those expenses. And sometimes it's hard for us to, when we have a lot of credit cards, to think, which one should we pay first? Can you give us any advice on maybe snowballing those credit cards? Would it be better by interest? Would it be better by the payment?
Well, that's a good point. I was going through some of my Home Depot credit cards, and I realized that they were giving me a forbearance on the interest. If I paid a certain amount of balance for that month, I would save, and it was like 250, excuse me, like $250. So it was carrying some weight between my Capital One and my Home Depot. So you know what I did? I still paid my Capital One, but I paid a little bit over my monthly payment. But I went ahead and paid off the Home Depot because the amount of money I saved. So I think you need to look at the credit cards and what they're offering. Some of these credit cards have deferred interest, and if you're able to complete the payments for 6 months or a year, what happens is that you saved all the interest that was, that you would have been charged otherwise. So look at those areas and take them into consideration. And if you can pay it, pay it, or look at how far along they've given you to come up with a balance, and just pay some of it, and next month pay a little bit more. You're cutting it down until you finally get to that month where you're debt free, or you benefit from the deferred interest.
Yes, thank you, Maria. Now, somebody had an interesting question. They said, what do you feel about home phone lines and just having a cell phone, or should you have both?
This is how I feel about both. I have both, but I live in California. This is just my personal opinion. I just think that when my cell phone goes down, it seems my landline continues to operate. But I live in California. We have earthquakes. I'm not sure how that applies to the other states, but most cable companies offer you the landline as part of the package. So if if they offer you as part of your bundle, go ahead and accept it, and now you have a landline and you also have a cell phone. But I mean, it's really a matter of preference, what your needs are. I have family in Texas and in Hawaii, so in case of emergency, I know that I can reach them on a landline.
Yes, Maria, that's correct. I have family in Houston, and as some of you may know, because of flooding or hurricanes, tropical storms, sometimes cell phones do not work during that time. So my parents do have a landline, just a basic landline that we can check in with them or they can check in with us, because sometimes during those um, you know, whether you cannot get a hold of someone through a cell phone, and that has happened to us. So if you can afford it, I would look at basic plans first and see if that is affordable for you. Somebody asked us suggestions for one income household who have lost their job with just Social Security income. Any ways that they can still budget?
I I believe so, because the two factors that are how that will continue to happen is the household will continue to have expenses and they're still having income, right? And so it's going to be priority budgeting, you know, based on fixed expenses, roof, food, and the basics, if their car insurance. But I believe that budgeting is a means to an end, and it gives us financial freedom to know that, or at least stress, it reduces our stress to know that our fixed expenses are covered and we have a place to live, we have food, and we're safe. So yes, absolutely, it is applicable and in some states, um, there's free programs like in California, there's a HEAP program. So when people are, on a reduced budget, they can apply state of California for um, energy efficient, reduced rates. So the electricity, the gas company will give that to them or they might even offer to pay their bill, an X amount of money and then pay for the next couple of 3 months or so. So there's programs available. I know in California, I'm not sure in Melissa, if in Texas, the Utilities Commission offers that. I also know that the state of California offers reduced cell phones or for senior citizens and people with disability, they get discounted rates for basic phone line as well as cable. So I'm not sure if in Texas and other states, but in California, they definitely offer that.
Thank you, Maria. And I'm glad that you brought up discounts for senior citizens. My parents sometimes forget that they are senior citizens, and so they do not ask. And then we remind them, hey, did you ask? Maybe they have a senior citizen discount. And sometimes they do remember and they'll ask for everything. Anything that they could possibly ask, they'll say, is there a discount for senior citizens? And you'd be surprised. Sometimes there is, especially at some stores, some grocery stores, and other entertainment that you may think it doesn't apply, and it does. And somebody brought up a great tip: couponing. When I was
Oh, yeah.
when I was little, we used to cut the coupons out of the Sunday paper. That was something me and my sisters did for my mother. And as we get older, you forget about that, or you feel like you don't have to coupon. And nowadays, I have gone back to couponing virtually, because you can do it on your phone now for Target and Kroger, Randall's, all these stores now. They all have their own program where you can get rewards and you can do coupons. And so don't forget about that, that sometimes just by having their rewards card, you get certain offers that really make it worth it. Now, Maria, we're getting here close to the end. Do you have any other tips or advice for our audience that's listening that will help them in the future with their financial literacy, their budget planning, and anything else out there?
Just want to remind the viewers that ARRP does offer many features. I know we talked about in previous workshops about scam and fraud prevention, credit worthiness, and payday loans. They have a series that is offered free and no cost. So I would definitely encourage them to connect with AARP, and they will, receive information that's current. I also want to thank them for joining us every week or for those 2 other sessions. I really enjoyed this series, and I want to encourage them to provide feedback. If our workshops were of value, I want to encourage them to, to share that with you and Raul. And I personally want to say thank you and to Raul, to you, to Sarah National, Wells Fargo, because this is very proactive to go out there and help participants get access to information, which is the first step to financial planning, is access. And I know Sarah National is really high on creating access. So thank you, Melissa.
Thank you again, Maria. We wish you the most success here in the future. I know that you have something up and coming, some more projects. We hope to see you again, maybe on a different subject, on a different program. So we'll stay connected. I will invite Raul now back to see if he has any questions or comments for you or the audience.
Definitely, we have some comments. Thank you. This information was very helpful. There was another one that said, this has been very informative. It is very hard to budget when you don't have much money coming in. Thank you for some very good tips. I am very relieved that I have been paid during this difficult time, and I thank you for that. Thanks, Miss Melissa and Miss Maria. Great topic. Really enjoyed this session. Thanks, Sir. Thanks, Miss Rochelle, for everything as well. We have had a great house packed with a lot of people joining us from many states. Thank you for joining us. This was the 3rd one on a series. As Maria said, we talked about scams and different issues with getting emails and people trying to steal your money that way. We talked about creditworthiness, we talked about budget, and we hope that you did enjoy all the presentations. One more thing is that we thank the great people at Wells Fargo for sponsoring the 3 webinars. And again, thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Maria. Anybody, you have any other comments, Melissa or Maria?
No, Raul, like I said, it has been a pleasure meeting you, Maria. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you both. And Raul, thank you to your wife for a great job.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and have a blessed one. Until the next time. Bye now.
Bye. Thank you.